It's Monday, and you know what that means. Welcome to Have Faith. Let it begin.
Podcast of inspiration. It's a podcast of hope. It's a podcast of faith, and it's a podcast of friendship.
Here is your host, Angel Santana, and special co-host, Dr. E.
We're a three-podcast guy.
That's it, man. Let's rock and roll in 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Have Faith, Let It Begin. Welcome to another Monday episode where Angel and Dr. E are back. And let me tell you something. This is going to be fun. And it's meant to be fun. You know why it's meant to be fun? Because I love going back to nostalgia. And with Dr. E being here and Citizens Reunited to Overcome Cancer, today's conversation is a little lighter. It's about nostalgic, but it's still full of meaning, especially during the Christmas season. What does that mean? Well, I want to start by taking us back, way back, as I say hi to Dr. E, to Christmas as a kid. And let's start off with Dr. E. Welcome back, my friend. How are you?
Oh my God, happy Christmas season, my friend. How are you? I saw the pictures of your beautiful daughter doing her recital, and I'll tell you, if you didn't cry like a baby, you have a dark heart, man.
Oh, big shout outs to the conservatory, the Rosemont Theater. They did an amazing job with the Christmas Charlie Brown. It was a phenomenal show. And yes, I teared up. I had that in the throat. And that's why I said tonight we're going to have to make this a little bit special. So let's get right into it. Growing up for me in the 1980s, Christmas just felt different, right? There were no cell phones. There was no social media, no online wish lists. We waited for catalogs, the big Sears catalog, to arrive in the mail. Then we go all the way to the back because we were kids, circled all the toys with a pen and hope for the best. What was Christmas like for you? You know, you're a little bit younger than me, so I'm assuming it's the 70s. Well, how was Christmas for you? Share some of that with us.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad. This is a great subject. So you grew up in the Christmas in the 80s, which was simple, but I grew up Christmas in the 60s. So growing up in the 60s was very interesting because it was one of those decades that was sort of a transition decade, right? So you had the pre-war, post-depression stuff, and then World War II kind of changed our country, right? We were incredibly elated. We were instrumental in saving the world from this horrible, Nazism and, all that kind of stuff. And I want to go so far as saying sort of saved the world, or at least the world as it was known at that point from utter terrible dictatorship and all that kind of stuff and hatred and genocide and all this stuff. And it did trickle down to our country, and our country had pride, and our country, had optimism, and our country, was simple, but there was this simplicity, but there was this great sense of feeling. And that really portrayed itself in the 1950s where, I think the United States in the 1950s was probably as good a time to be anywhere in any country at any time in history. And then 1960s rocked. And, it started with the assassination of JFK and the Vietnam War. So that 1960s was a transition. And then you were a transition decade because it was right before the technology came in and all of this, social media and internet and all this other stuff. But to answer your question in my long-winded way,
No, that's good.
1960s, coming from a family of not having, really much in the way of materialistic opportunities, and, where, all of our Christmases were extraordinarily simple and filled with love and filled with food, the Italian way, and filled with family. And I'll tell you a quick Charlie Brown story to sort of take your daughter's recital full circle. So one year, my mom and I were living in a little sort of cold water flat and, in the tenements in Paterson, New Jersey. And, we had, this galley kitchen, and my mom slept on the couch and I had this bed, and it was as simple can be. And we didn't have any money for a tree that year. And we were just kind of walking down the street, in the tenement, and we had noticed that someone had thrown this little artificial Christmas tree.
Hmm.
Might have been maybe 2 feet tall or something, very small Christmas tree that looked as Charlie Brown tree as you could possibly get. And, it had this it had the bulbs, it had the sockets to put in the
Oh,
little
yeah.
bulbs. And what we did was we just kind of picked it up, this poor thing that was in the garbage heap, and we took it home and we kind of cleaned it up, and we went to the hardware store and we bought, a couple of packets of the lights, and we put the lights in and we crossed our fingers and we plugged it in, and lo and behold, those lights worked. And then we bought a little bit of garland and a little bit of
Nice.
tinsel and put a couple of things in. And I'm going to tell you something very, very moving. I hope you feel it's moving. When we moved then to my grandmother's house, so we left the tenements, my grandmother's house and this tree was like pretty much everything to us, right? Because this tree, even when we had the money, we never bought a tree. This was our tree, right?
Mm.
Forever and ever and ever. And my grandmother had this picture window where people would and they were on a corner of a side street and a main street. And when a car would pass the street, they would look into our window. And the way it was, set up is when we put the Charlie Brown tree up, they thought that this was like a 17-foot tree because all they could see is like the top of the tree. What they didn't know was the Charlie Brown tree like sort of stopped like right at where they couldn't see. So they thought that we had the greatest tree in the world, but we just had this Charlie Brown tree. Now, Angel, I'm going to tell you another thing that's going to choke you up is that when you do go home tomorrow, if you happen to pass my office, so every Christmas season, I bring my Charlie Brown tree to work and I put it on top of my copy machine, and you will see this Charlie Brown tree in the window of my office. So that Charlie Brown tree, so to me, that Charlie Brown tree to me is what Christmas is all about.
That's a great story. And I was just thinking about waking up on Christmas morning and how it felt magical. You run down to the tree, you see the lights, the wrapping paper, and then the one gift you hoped was there. And honestly, it didn't matter. It really didn't matter to me. I could have been an action figure, which I wanted those WWE action figures, a board game or something simple. What mattered was how it made me feel, right? So let me
Yeah.
close with this. This is a fun debate. Back then, gifts weren't about costs. They were about joy, right? Now, as adults, especially those of us who are facing hardship, illness, or loss, our perspectives change, right? And as you know, Dr. E, you've seen this firsthand through your work by, helping people fight cancer. When life humbles you, when you realize something important, it's not the gift that matters, it's the love behind it. I'd love to hear from you, Dr. E, about this is a funny debate. I'm going to turn this into a funny debate. It's called the Christmas gift debate. What do you do when someone gives you a gift and you know deep down you're never going to use it? Do you regift it or do you tell the person you don't like it? I'll be honest. This is a tricky one for me. It's always comes back to the intention. If someone thought about me, took the time to choose something and gave it with love, then gratitude comes first, always, right? Regifting, well, I can't say I've never done that, but I'm always afraid that I forget who gave it to me and I regift it back to the person who gave it to me. What?
That's a famous story, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I think that you're right, though. The gratitude, if someone thinks enough of us, to give us something, of course, gratitude is the number one thing. And the way I look at it, my mother, again, growing up the way I grew up, life was practical. If there's something that you can use and enjoy or whatever, you use it. And if not, you want to try to make sure that it can get into the hands of someone, who could enjoy it or whatever. And I got to tell you, my mother also taught me brutal honesty. I'm not a diplomat. So in answer to your question, if someone gave me something, I'm going to say, you know what? I love this, but you know what? I'm never going to be able to use this. I'm going to tell you, it's going to go to a great cause. I'm going to donate it to charity, or it's going to go to someone who has nothing. And when I do give it, I say the same thing. This gift is not from me. It's from Joe Smith or whoever it happens to be. So I've never had a problem with it, and no one has ever, whatever. And the other thing is we get older, Angel. And again, back to our analogy of that 20-year difference. In 20 years from now, you're going to have so much crap that you're not going to know what to do with. You're going to probably be regifting pretty much everything. So just to let you know, it's a common thing. But I really thank you for letting me share that Charlie Brown Christmas tree story.
It's perfect because, I did I did a sermon about the peace within us and the joy. You just did an episode on your podcast with me about giving bad news. So this is what I want to talk about. This is how we're going to close. It won't be a formal prayer. It'll be more of, I'm going to take a page out of the Croc podcast. We're going to motivate you as we leave. And if you haven't listened to the Croc podcast, this episode was really, really profound and it was really inspiring. It's about dealing with breaking bad news, and it doesn't have to be a certain way. You just got to check out the episode. So let's close this way. Telling someone and being honest, you can be, kindness will always win, especially when we remember that so many people this Christmas aren't worried about gifts at all. Some are fighting cancer. Some are dealing with bad news. Some are missing loved ones at the table. For them, a gift isn't an item. It's a moment, a call, a hug, a simple knowing someone cares. That perspective matters. And that's what this season reminds me of. It's gratitude, not perfection, not money, not having everything figured out. Just gratitude for being here for one another and for the moments we still get to share. So let me close by saying, as we continue the countdown of Christmas, I want to encourage our Have Faith, Let It Begin family, the Croc Nation. I want to encourage you to give grace to others and to yourself. And if you're listening today and you're struggling physically, emotionally, spiritually, please know this. You are not alone. And your story is not even over. Thank you for spending the Monday with us. Thank you for being a part of both of our podcasts. And never, ever forget.
Have faith, let it begin, baby.
We'll see you and we'll talk to you after Christmas as we do the countdown on the Monday after for the new year. Dr. E, I'll see you soon.
Yep, thank you.
Peace out.
Have faith, let it begin. Please come back. God be with you. We are all brothers and sisters in Christ.
Have faith, let it begin.
Take one day at a time. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
This is
Have faith, let it begin.